Hello everyone! As many of you know, I really like putting the spotlight on obscure older films, introducing overlooked titles to potential new fans, and finding the good in so-called bad movies. But every now and then, it's also fun to walk on well-tread ground and discuss a movie that just about everyone is familiar with and just about everyone agrees is good. And that's what I'm doing today. Here are my thoughts on one of the greatest classic science fiction horror movies, 1951's The Thing from Another World. When a strange, unidentified aircraft is reported to have landed at the North Pole, the military sends up a team to meet with a group of scientists there and investigate. They find the ship is actually a flying saucer. While they're unable to do much with it before it explodes, they do recover a body encased in ice and bring it back to camp. As the two factions, science and military, argue over their next step, the ice melts, and the thing trapped inside breaks free. This is a movie I've seen many times since I was a little kid. My mom loves it, so whenever she'd pass it on TV, she'd stop on it. And back then, it was terrifying. I was quaking every time the thing came on screen. Now, as is the case with many old movies that used to scare me, I'm very fond of it. And while I used to take it for granted, I now understand what an excellent film it is. 1951 was quite a year, bringing us not one but two of the greatest science fiction films ever made. The other was Robert Wise's The Day the Earth Stood Still, released just a few months prior. Both have enjoyed enduring popularity and have proven to be tremendously influential. The Thing from Another World, often just called The Thing, was produced by Howard Hawks, and everyone refers to it as a Howard Hawks film, though Christian Nyby is the one credited as director. Nyby had worked for years as an editor. He edited a few films for Hawks, and The Thing was his first directing job. He made a few more feature films after this, and then he turned to television, where he flourished. There have always been rumors that Hawks, who was very active on set, was the true director. Cast and crew seemed to differ on this point, which did nothing to clear up the question. And years later, Nyby addressed this controversy, saying, "Did Hawks direct it? That's one of the most inane and ridiculous questions I've ever heard, and people keep asking." That it was Hawks' style. Of course it was. This is a man I studied and wanted to be like. You would certainly emulate and copy the master you're sitting under, which I did. Anyway, if you're taking painting lessons from Rembrandt, you don't take the brush out of the master's hands. That statement isn't really a confirmation or a denial. It's kind of like a, well, yes, I directed, but so did he. I guess you could call it a collaborative effort. Whether or not he called the shots, Hawks' fingerprints are certainly all over the film, particularly in its energy, its mix of characters, and its snappy dialogue. You get a taste of this in the very first scene, where you're introduced to the reporter, the captain, his co-pilot, and his navigator. Every line is rich with information, or humor, or both combined.
Botanist, physicist, electronic...
Including a pin-up girl. Very interesting type, too.
Very. Captain Henry can give you any data you want on her.
Ken, you probably shouldn't have said that. You know how to
Well, after I read
Now,
that.
look.
And it flows like that through pretty much the entire movie.
For the World Scout, I'm working for the airport.
Look, Sonny, if you think I'm gonna...
I'll take that.
Here's a
Oh,
detonation.
even the Russians wouldn't
When I
look
get
like
back
that.
to the ship,
Sort of go up in smoke, like the saucer, huh?
Nonsense.
Isn't that a little far-fetched?
so is a
Came
man
from Mars.
We're getting nowhere.
We're consistent.
The film is an adaptation of the 1938 novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell. More on this in a minute. The screenplay was written by Charles Lederer with uncredited contributions from Hawks and Ben Hecht. Lederer also adapted 1931's The Front Page and its 1940 remake, His Girl Friday, famous for its rapid-fire overlapping dialogue, a feature they repeated here, and it's one of my favorite things about the movie. I think a lot of people would say it's one of the elements that they love the most, and it's not just a style thing. The flow of the lines imitates genuine chatter. Good-natured joking around informs us of the dynamics between the characters. People talking over each other reflects the confusion and chaos of the situation, and levity becomes an outlet under pressure. There's a wonderful scene where we get our first good look. It's a jump scare, really. The captain opens the door and is startled to find himself face to face with the Thing. It's a great moment, but I also love the banter afterward, when the danger's past but the adrenaline's still high, and the guys are teasing each other about what they did and didn't do.
Did you picture, Scotty?
No, you were in the way. And the door wasn't open long enough.
Want me to open it again?
No.
This response, this expression of relief after a moment of high intensity, feels very realistic to me.
Oh, it'll be okay. What makes me mad is that he didn't do it. I busted it falling over the bunk.
Kenneth Tobey, a familiar face to 50s sci-fi fans, plays Captain Pat Hendry. Though he's not a big tough guy or a gruff career military man, he exercises his authority convincingly. His Achilles heel is Margaret Sheridan's Nikki, the head scientist's secretary. We don't exactly know the history between them. There's no clear exposition, just juicy hints about a wild night where she played a prank on him. But that's really all we need.
Mr. Carrington's going to have to wait. I want to talk to you. I want to
What
tell you
about?
it was a downright dirty trick you played on me.
Now, Pat, don't lose your temper.
Why did you do it? Just tell me why.
They have a comfortably sassy relationship, and even when their flirtatious sparring isn't the focus of a scene, Tobey and Sheridan, mostly by exchanging looks, keep things popping. I'd say Nikki is part sweater girl, part Hoxian woman. The Hoxian woman is someone who is confident, witty, tough, proactive, and fast-talking. Think Rosalind Russell in His Girl Friday, Lauren Bacall in To Have and Have Not or The Big Sleep, Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby, Barbara Stanwyck in Ball of Fire, all delightful performances in delightful films directed by Howard Hawks. Sheridan's Nikki isn't as prominent as these examples, but she definitely fits the bill. She's a lady who likes to take the reins. She shoots witty zingers at her love interest. In one noteworthy scene, she teases him with drinks and kisses after tying his hands behind his back, only for him to reveal he's secretly been untied all along. When he says at one point that after this he's done giving orders, she quips, "If I thought that were true, I'd ask you to marry me."
All right, move along, please. Everybody, keep moving. Please,
Sorry,
keep moving.
General. Changed my mind. It's all off.
And when it is all over, she and his wingmen gang up on him about settling down. Those two, the co-pilot and the navigator, are a couple of wise guys, constantly mocking their superior officer about his girl problems. You can tell they're friends, though, because he doesn't get too mad about it.
We're very proud of our captain.
Another winsome character is Scott, the newspaper man who's dying to share the scoop with the outside world and is constantly frustrated by military red tape.
Oh, Nicky, not you too.
He's sensitive about his
You
hair.
too.
I got hair.
Well, it doesn't make you any prettier.
No, your breath.
I'm sorry.
He's sensitive about that, too.
I've been very upset lately.
Oh, you ninnies.
I also like Tex, the easygoing wireless operator, and Bob, who kind of becomes the idea guy.
Captain, I got a suggestion.
Somebody.
Captain, I got a crazy idea.
Why?
One overhead and one on each side. When that thing gets to the right spot, juice him.
I don't get you. Where's the fence wire? Right down here.
Hey, give me those cutters.
What are you talking about?
And Dr. Chapman, who is part of the research team but sides with the captain against Carrington. Dr. Carrington is kind of the secondary villain, played by Robert Cornthwaite, another staple of the genre. This is the role he's most known for, and yet he looks pretty different from his usual self, with his little Mephistophelian goatee and white added to his hair. Carrington sees the Thing as a stranger in a strange land, and admires it as a superior life form. Gee, where have we heard that before? And he's therefore hungry to communicate with it and learn its secrets. This even after it brutally murders two of his own men. He goes to battle over who's in charge of this expedition with Captain Hendry, and when he meets a brick wall there, he turns to deception to get what he wants. Editing Weaselberry here. Legendary voice actor Paul Frees also appears uncredited as Dr. Voorhees. I'd forgotten he was in this until I suddenly recognized him halfway through. He's a minor character, but now that I'm editing, I notice he's in a lot of scenes. As for The Thing, it's played by James Arness. This is only a few years before he was cast as Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke, a role he'd play for its entire 20-year run, appearing in all 635 episodes. Arness, who had mostly uncredited roles prior to this point, didn't especially enjoy this part. It required heavy makeup and prosthetics, there were stunts involved, and he had no lines. For an aspiring leading man, it wasn't ideal, but for the viewer, he was striking, his 6'7" height further accentuated by the distance from which he's shot, and the way he's costumed, and the way he's lit. Like the story that Howard Hawks was the real director, it has frequently been reported that Arness hated playing The Thing and found it embarrassing, so embarrassing that he refused to go to the premiere. But, in 2005 at least, he said, "Not true. I started in movies in 1946 and lost a lot of parts because of my height. When Howard Hawks put me in The Thing, it was a great break for me at the time, because I was struggling to get any kind of job whatsoever, and that picture got a tremendous amount of publicity, and got me other work afterward." It's certainly hard to imagine the movie without him. Some people might think that the guys who play monsters and aliens in movies are interchangeable, but that's not true. Besides variations in physique, there are real acting decisions involved, and you need a good sense of timing and of movement and other things like that. There are people who are good at this, and there are people who are not good at it. Another factor that makes this particular alien so effective are the sounds. The fierce roars and howls also play a huge part in making The Thing scary. To get back to Campbell's novella, Who Goes There, I've read it 3 times now. Most recently, just a few weeks ago, I read this copy, which I noticed has the original title, Who Goes There, in very small print, and then says the novella that formed the basis of The Thing in huge font. Editing Weaselberry here again. The Thing may seem like a lazy nondescriptor, especially if you've had dozens of English teachers insist you should never use that word in serious writing. But that is how they refer to the alien repeatedly in both the book and the movie.
Bones is a thing out there.
Why is any object we don't understand always called a thing?
Each time I read Who Goes There, I like it more. The first time was kind of a mess. I found it hard to follow, I had trouble keeping all the characters straight, I found the writing dry and overly technical. There were parts where I felt like I don't even know what's going on. I also was reading it online, and the format was awful. That is most definitely a factor. I do not recommend doing that. The second time was in a book, a short story collection, and it went much better. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings, and it was so tense. I was on edge, and my opinion did a 180. I came away thinking, that was great. It's like I hadn't even really read it the first time. And I talked about it in a book review, which I've put a link to in the description. I don't really remember what I said in that video, but you might like the video anyway, because the collection was all short stories that were adapted into classic sci-fi movies. So there's a lot of really good things in that collection, and I know I also talked about a little bit about Farewell to the Master, which was adapted as The Day the Earth Stood Still. So you can check that out if you want to. Famously, this movie is not a faithful adaptation of this book. There is a section from when they're hauling the ice block into the cold storage room and debating over how to proceed, to when the Thing runs out into the snow, fights the dog, and loses its arm. That stretch comes from the book. Everything before and everything after is new. The film adds the two women, the romantic side story, Carrington's secret experiment. The look of the thing isn't a complete match. The book emphasizes its wormy blue hair. In the movie, it has no hair. And when it's in the ice, in the book, everyone comments that its eyes are full of hate. The movie has just one vague shot of it in the ice, and you can't even see the eyes. More importantly, its nature has changed. This thing is a humanoid, plant-based life form. They joke that it's like a super carrot, and fear comes from its ability to rapidly reproduce itself, fueled by the consumption of blood. It's difficult to kill, and to kill completely, and it has the ability to create its own army. The book, let's face it, has a much more terrifying concept. If just one bit of this thing can jump to another living organism, it'll take it over and imitate it, enabling the thing to hide in plain sight. This leads the men to become paranoid and suspicious of each other, not knowing who is real and who is an imposter. The 1982 adaptation, directed by John Carpenter, inspired by his love of this movie, does stick closer to the book in this regard, making it the more faithful adaptation. I just wish it wasn't so gross. I find that movie very yucky. You know what I'm talking about. It's going along, it's fine, and then all of a sudden, and then, I am planning to give that movie a second try in October when I do my month-long spooky mini-reviews, and I'm gonna watch the commentary as well. That's what I really want to see, because it sounds hilarious. It's John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, and they're just having a ball. I saw a video that had some clips of it, and that's what's kind of spurring me on, and I'm hoping that maybe it'll help. I suspect I'll still prefer the 1951 version, which, even though it makes a lot of changes, isn't an insulting adaptation, and it's not so far from the source material that it deserves to be called an adaptation in name only. I do recommend the novella. It is a chilling read, and it's full of surprises. This was the first of many Alien in the Arctic movies. I love a good spooky, snowy setting. The opening shot brings The Invisible Man to mind. Plus, it's got that sense of isolation. There's the fact that they're in the middle of nowhere at the North Pole. Plus, because there's a disturbance in the air, messages aren't going out or coming in the way they should. Captain Hendry, waiting for orders from Alaska, is forced to make his own decisions. And with no reliable way of reaching the outside, the group becomes more vulnerable. Mind you, that sense of isolation is drastically increased in the novella. The thing has a superb score composed by Dimitri Tompkin. The music as they make their trek to the crash site is especially good. And that's followed by one of YouTuber James Rolfe's favorite parts, when the men spread out to determine the craft's shape and realize it's perfectly round.
We finally got one.
We found a flying saucer.
Up to this point, they've suspected the Soviets, but now they know they're dealing with something from another planet. By the way, the Roswell incident, if you're curious, trying to establish a timeline here, happened in 1947, so it's just a few years prior. Remember, though, Who Goes There was published in 1938. I love how visible everyone's breath is in later scenes when the heat's been shut off. Obviously, there's no CGI used here, as would most likely be the case today. To achieve this effect, they filmed this sequence at an ice storage facility in downtown LA. When the characters are standing there shivering, the actors really are cold. I'd also like to give a shout out to an unsung supporting character, the Geiger counter. Whenever that light starts blinking, everyone's on edge. I love the scene where they've come up with a plan and then the Geiger counter starts blinking, and so they know the thing is coming their way. Everybody gets ready, the lights go out, it's just the Geiger flashing, and then the door bursts open. throwing kerosene on him, there's chaos and flames, and it makes for a very dramatic-looking scene. Plus, it's got a landmark stunt. Note, that is not James Arness on fire. They swapped him out for stuntman Tom Steele, wearing an asbestos suit and fiberglass helmet for protection. I took a gander at Tom Steele's IMDb page. He's got a whopping 229 acting credits and 455 stunt credits from 1930 to 1986. He died in 1990. Thanks in no small part to Steele's contribution, that scene is brilliant. In film, it's exciting and shows the smooth execution of a plan hastily assembled, and production-wise, it's the successful accomplishment of a very dangerous stunt. And then again, in the climax, that Geiger counter blinking faster and faster plays a huge role in building suspense.
It's getting near the top.
It's such a great movie. It's spooky, it's funny, characters are smart, and dialogue is clever. It's one tremendously engaging film, from its awesome title drop, with the words burning through the screen, to its famous closing lines, Scott's warning to keep watching the skies. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on The Thing from Another World. If you have seen this movie, and I'm sure a lot of you have, I'd love to hear your take on it, so share what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you again next weekend. Thanks for watching.